This colorful scene from 1947 is a grapefruit grove in Sunnyslope, Arizona, near Central Avenue and the Arizona Canal. We are looking at the largest commercial farming venture ever attempted north of the canal in this area of Phoenix. Surprisingly, the lush orchard we see was not watered by the canal visible in the foreground of the picture. That water was used to grow crops downhill from the canal to the right of the picture. The citrus grove is located uphill from the canal and was irrigated with groundwater pumped from wells. The man behind this project was Auggie Grunow. Auggie Grunow, who went by the name of Auggie, was from the Chicago area and moved here with his family in 1930, intent on entering the commercial grapefruit industry. In the 1920s, grapefruit was increasing in popularity throughout the country, and Grunow had explored sites in Texas and California before deciding to locate near the established citrus belt in North Phoenix along the Arizona Canal. He was the first to establish a large agricultural business on the desert side of the canal in an area where improved access to electricity and new pump technology had only recently made such a venture possible. Auggie Grunow's 160 acres of groves in Sunnyslope were located on both sides of 7th Street north of the Arizona Canal. Grunow's acreage is outlined in red on this aerial view from the mid-1940s. The boundaries of his land were Alice Avenue on the north, 10th Street on the east, 3rd and 5th Streets on the west, and the Arizona Canal to the south. Although much of Grunow's grove was undeveloped prior to his purchase, the land west of 7th Street had previously been the 9-hole golf course of the Country Club of Phoenix between 1912 and 1920. The Country Club, whose tennis courts and clubhouse had been located just on the other side of the canal, described the links as the only desert golf course in the country with 2 water hazards. The name Grunow is familiar to many in the valley thanks to the Lois Grunow Memorial Medical Clinic on McDowell Road. The clinic was built in 1930 with a $1 million endowment by Augie's brother William C. Grunow and named for William's deceased young daughter Lois. William C. Grunow made his fortune manufacturing the Majestic radio in the 1920s. He helped Auggie establish the citrus business, but did not take part in the operation of the groves after supporting the initial stages of the project. Auggie Grunow was an independent grower who operated his own sorting and packing plant on Butler Drive near 6th Street in a building designed by the local architect firm of Lesher and Mahoney. The Grunow packing label displayed the uncluttered design with bold lettering in the style that was popular at the time. According to one former employee, most of the workers in the plant who processed the grapefruit and applied labels to the crates were female. Men were more likely to work in the field, tending to the trees and picking the fruit. Grunow established his groves at a time of record grapefruit plantings in the valley. Between 1930 and 1933, the number of acres in grapefruit increased by 400%. When the trees matured in the mid to late 1930s, the unprecedented jump in production resulted in an excess of fruit, which drove prices down and compelled growers to search for new ways to sell their product. One way was to market the fruit as juice, and Grunow, as president of the Desert Citrus Products Association, was instrumental in establishing a grapefruit juicing and canning plant in Tempe in 1937. Grapefruit juice was promoted as a healthy drink that could be enjoyed either straight or mixed with orange or tangerine juice. Juicing was healthy for the growers because it provided a market for culls of the crop, individual fruits which were flavorful but not visually appealing in size or shape and not easily sold at groceries. When the country entered World War II, further market pressures were put on the grapefruit industry. The need for metal in the war effort led to a shortage of tin used to make the juice cans, which severely limited the amount of grapefruit that could be processed into juice. With no place to market the juice portion of his crop in 1942, Grunow unloaded 30 tons of grapefruit culls at the county dump on 19th Avenue and Cave Creek Wash, just south of Greenway Road. The availability of free grapefruit was reported in the local papers, and over 1,000 people descended on the dump to scavenge the piles for usable fruit. While Grunow was not the only grower to discard unsellable citrus, he soon became the best known as the story was picked up by a national news wire and appeared in at least 20 states across the nation. Grunow's response to this unexpected publicity was to promise that any future discards would be offered to charitable organizations instead of dumped on the desert. After almost 20 years of operating in an oversupplied competitive market through an economic depression and a world war, Auggie Grunow in 1949 decided to leave the citrus growing business. Here we see him in the process of removing the trees of his grove. Grunow planted melon, cotton, and other crops for a few years before selling his land in the early 1950s. Although he did not return to farming, Auggie Grunow remained active and influential in citrus growers' circles over the next 2 decades. Most of Grunow's land was developed in the 1950s as the Northtown subdivision by Staggs Build Homes, whose moderately priced communities defined this area of post-war Sunnyslope. On this 1959 aerial, we can see that land once covered in citrus is now covered in homes. The path through the center is 7th Street, with a wide area for commercial access. Desert View Elementary School and Most Holy Trinity Catholic Parish were also built on the land. Finally, here is a comparative look at Grunow's groves as they appeared in 1947 and today in 2020. The view is to the northeast from the south bank of the Arizona Canal, just a short distance from its intersection with Central Avenue. Thanks for viewing.